When it rains, it pours. And with the latest news that's come out in terms of Warriors injuries, I think it's time to maybe get out the canoe because we're experiencing a flood at this point.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
What are they going to say now?
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Man, when you win 4 championships and have nice things consistently, sometimes the tables just turn, and that's what it's been this 25-26 season for the Golden State Warriors. Anything that can go wrong has gone wrong. When it rains, it pours, and in this case, the flood is coming. This is Locked On Warriors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We appreciate you for making us the #1 sports podcast network out there. My name's Charlie Walter, host of the show. Bay Area sports personality on 95.7 The Game in the past, also CBS News Bay Area. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. On today's show, we're going to get into a long conversation that Mike Dunleavy had on Tim Kawakami's podcast. A couple things that he said that really contradict each other, specifically the Warriors trying to go all in for the now while also looking ahead to the future. It just doesn't seem like it can work that way. We're going to talk about Warriors lottery odds. The tank is kind of here at this point. And of course, we got to get into the fun part of this conversation, which is happening right now, and that is injuries. First of all, find this show on YouTube, wherever you get your audio podcast. Smash that like and subscribe. Very much appreciate you all. Moses Moody, the latest Golden State Warrior who has suffered from the injury bug. So we're at the point now where against the Houston Rockets on Thursday, the Warriors will have 7 players and a couple of two-way guys. You'll be seeing some Leones. You'll be seeing Nate Williams. And aside from that, a very short bench for the Dubs because Moses Moody picked up a right wrist sprain Monday against the Clippers, also tweaked his shoulder. What can go worse? Not just the wrist, the shoulder as well. So the Warriors will hold him out on Thursday. Remains to be seen if he'll be cleared in time for Saturday's game against the Thunder. Oh, you want to talk about really, really raining. You got the Thunder on Saturday. And the last time the Skeleton Crew played against the Thunder, they lost by about 7,000. So not good news right now for the Dubs, who are missing Will Richard. Gary Payton's been out. Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, sciatica for Seth Curry. All we want is Warriors fans to salvage this season to some degree. I mean, if Santa or a genie was giving me the wish list, Kristaps Porzingis being healthy to the point where I felt confident about him going into next year would be, top of the list potentially, even up there with Steph getting back, because we're expecting Steph to be back and at it next year. But if you could get Kristaps Porzingis on the cheap somehow and have faith that he'd be healthy entering next season and not 6 straight DNPs, then that's like best case scenario of what could come from this season. Aside from that, it's the picture opportunity of Seth and Steph 30 and 31 on the floor together, which we somehow have not seen. The few games that Seth, who looked awesome, by the way, in his limited time, was healthy, Steph was out, and vice versa. In preseason, they didn't get any run together. So that's a bummer, to say the least. Cloudy with a chance of Curry? Maybe. At this point, it seems like what's going on is that they're going to delay this thing. And then with 3-4 games left in the regular season, that's where a choice will be made on whether Steph Curry will be back, ramp things up into the play-in, or whether he will not be good to go. And Mike Dunleavy on that podcast with TK mentioned that there's a chance he can't see into the future. He expects Steph to return, but there's a chance that he is out for the season. Small chance, but there's always that possibility if he does not get better. So Brian Windhorst on ESPN said instantly the conversation has shifted to everyone wondering if the Warriors would shut him down for the season. I don't think that's what they're doing. I think they're evaluating where they are in the standings, evaluating where Steph is trying to do their own strategy play here. It's obviously a significant development that Steph is going to be out a few more weeks. But at this point, we know what's happening as Warriors fans. Chalk in 9, chalk in 10. It's probably one of those two seeds. I think the Clippers are all but past you at this point, and it's probably the Blazers at home or the Blazers at road, 9-10. On the road or at home, same thing, 9-10 to save your season. Because I don't think you're getting up to 7. I know for a fact if Steph's not returning anytime soon, you're not getting up to that 6th spot. Steph obviously wants a chance. He, on his current contract, has 2 more postseasons to make a run at this thing. And you would hope, and he would hope, that one of those runs is this season and that the Warriors can win a few games and get into the postseason. Now, the flip side to look at this thing is draft odds, because really the only way the Warriors can get significantly better is through the draft. And that's why the comments that Dunleavy has made saying we want to be fiscally responsible, we want to build for the future as we speak. At the same time, we want to give Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond another run at this thing next year because we felt like we were hitting stride in January before Jimmy's injury. Those two things are mutually exclusive. You can't have your cake and eat it too. With the way that this team's built and the money that's at the top, either the Warriors are tanking or the Warriors are bringing back $150 million of payroll, and you can't really do anything else in the offseason unless a ping pong ball goes your way. And let's say the Warriors were somehow to fall to the 11th worst record in the NBA, which is very plausible. I think 13 or 14 is your most likely. But if you're at 11, you have a 2% chance of getting the number 1 pick in the NBA draft. 2%. Not great, but you're telling me there's a chance. If the Warriors were to finish with the 14th best record, meaning they're the best teams that missed the playoffs, they could still get the number 1 pick. It's very unlikely. According to the current NBA draft lottery rules, the team with the 14th best record only has a 0.5% chance of landing the number 1 overall pick. That's probably realistically like best case scenario, 0.5% chance. But we're talking top 10, work your way up in the draft, and in a loaded draft class, find someone that can actually help you entering next season. That is best case / worst case scenario, depending on the way you want to look at it. Obviously, if Steph Curry is not returning this season, that is your best case scenario. Your other best case scenario is that Curry returns, like we are assuming, 3-4 games before this collision course that I would imagine is happening with the Portland Trailblazers. You could sneak a few games out in the play-in, and you can have a legitimate series against the, name that team, Oklahoma City Thunder. Oh, God. Do we even want that? Chat, do we even want that? Comments, thoughts on that. But the Warriors, if we are to talk about a rebuild moving forward, how do you even want this rebuild to look? To me, it's something like the Detroit Pistons, where you get good positional size, you get tough-minded players, and you go from there. The small ball that's been attached to the Warriors for a long time now, first of all, it hasn't always been that small. I mean, you had big guards in Klay Thompson and a 7-footer and Kevin Durant running around, and Livingston was big, and Draymond, sure, he was the 5, but Kevin Durant, again, 7 foot on the floor. When you have big positional players, you can hide that to a certain degree. The way the roster has been built since 2022, because 2022, you had Otto Porter Jr., you had Bielitsa, you had some ancillary pieces that were positionally good sized. But since then, this team has been tiny. I mean, how many guards are in this rotation? It's been shooting guard city year after year after year. So when the Warriors do flip this clock at some point and decide to move forward, I hope they kind of take a direction from the Pistons playbook, which is, let's get tough. Let's get bigger. Let's get some positional size in here. But there's no doubt about it that with the latest injury, that's Moses Moody, the rain is pouring down. The Warriors can't catch a break, And at a certain point, when you can't catch a break, call John Taffer and shut it down. Nobody eats. When we return, let's get into what Mike Dunleavy said specifically with Tim Kawakami. A few quotes that I thought were very interesting, including one that implies Steve Kerr could be back on a new contract next season. This is Locked On Warriors.
And buddy, stop trying to dribble the ball.
Today's episode is brought to you by TurboTax. It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old ways of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth, wondering if they're going to get your situation. This year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. Just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve, while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in, meeting a real person, and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to turbotax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment. All right, let's get back to the show.
Forget that. We champs. Why are you starting with that question? We got 4 championships.
Now's a great time to tell you about our Everydayer program. If you tune into this show every single day, then you are an everydayer. And what that means is you should join our Discord. I'll be popping in there. We have it Warriors localized. We also have Discords around the league where you could pop in, hear other hosts' opinions, other fans' opinions on their team. You'll get ad-free episodes and more. The link is in the bio on YouTube and wherever you get your audio podcast. Subscribe, join that Everydayer Club today, and show that you are one of the top fans of this show. Mike Dunleavy on the TK show all but confirmed that we are having a last dance situation next season. You can't really call it the last dance. The Bulls coined that thing. They won a championship during their last dance. The Warriors iteration seems more like a victory lap, right? Like when you're finished with college, you have 3 more credits and you just decide to extend it into a full year, get a house with your buddies, and do nothing for 8 months. And that's kind of how it feels like for the Warriors right now. It's somewhat of a victory lap to, say goodbye to the team as we currently know it and not necessarily to compete for an NBA championship. But Mike Dunleavy feels different about the situation. He feels like this team will try again next year. He looks at it as an extension of what was taking place in January when the team was winning games and looked really good together. Sure, the team's going to be a little bit older, but it's the same core. It's clear that from this conversation, Dunleavy was very excited going into the season. He thought this roster had the juice and the chops to compete, thought it could have even been better than the 2022 NBA championship team. On the podcast, Dunleavy said that he would project that Steve Kerr is the head coach next season. Said a lot could change. He can't look into a crystal ball and predict the future, but he would project that Steve is the coach next season, which, again, he said that he would project Jordan Poole to be on the team moving forward. And Jordan Poole was in Washington about 48 hours after he said that. So who knows? One of the quotes that Mike Dunleavy said is he's not keen to trading away a bunch of draft picks right now because he looks specifically at what happened this season. He just imagines a situation where the Warriors traded 3 first-round draft picks for, let's say Trey Murphy is that dude, trades 3 first-round draft picks for Trey Murphy, and then immediately, I'm talking like 3 games later, Steph Curry goes down with runner's knee and hasn't returned. You're now 3 draft picks down moving forward. You also don't have Steph Curry, and Trey Murphy now comes into a situation where he's going to put up some numbers, but is this team that much better than the Pelican squad that he's currently on and helping lead them to 19 wins? The answer is no. So Dunleavy's not keen to trading away a bunch of picks, and honestly, I agree with that situation. I think if you're talking Giannis, if you're talking maybe even Zion, because he could be a bridge to the future, if you're talking a player that not only helps you enhance the championship clarity and really give you a real fighter's chance next season, while also extending into the future as the franchise piece after Steph or when Steph signs a new contract that takes him into the sunset. One of the two. Unless you're doing that, don't trade any more picks. They did the right thing by bringing in Butler, only getting rid of one pick that turned into Kasparis for the Miami Heat, who's, got a decently bright future, but hasn't necessarily done a ton. And then you gave away some salary, Dennis Schroeder, Slow-Mo, name who else was in that deal to make that acquisition work. That's what the Warriors need to be looking at if they do have anything in the works this summer or next trade deadline. But aside from that, you kind of roll with what you've got. And the thing that doesn't really make sense is he said so many times that he is trying to really win now while also build for the future. And to me, that just seems impossible because the Warriors aren't in any position to build for the future. You can try it through the draft, striking gold and hitting a Giannis-like pick in the top 15, something along those lines after the top 10. It happens from time to time. Halliburton went late. You can find franchise cornerstone pieces midway through the first round of the draft, but everyone has those opportunities, and very rarely do those opportunities hit. Aside from that, what you have in-house are players that in the situations that they're in currently are not good enough. Now, with Steph Curry, with Jimmy Butler, and, with a healthy roster, you're looking at Moses Moody in a completely different light. You're looking at DeAnthony Melton as a perfect stick of glue that can help you be your first man off the bench as a sixth man and backup shooting guard. Like he's the perfect complementary piece. But as of right now, it just doesn't necessarily work that way. The quote that I found interesting was, "We're looking forward to what's next, but at the same time, the idea of a next without a Steph Curry or a Draymond Green or a Steve Kerr is not fun and exciting. In no way, shape, or form could I say that. However, you do look forward to the future positively. I think we'll continue to make good, positive decisions. I think we're going to have a really good competitive team, and there's going to be excitement here. It's just going to be different. It's going to be an excitement without Steph making shots and Draymond coming up with big stops and Steve on the sidelines, whenever that is. I'm okay with the reality of it all, and I realize what's coming, and I think we'll be ready for it." I think there's like a 1% chance in the back of my mind with what's going on in Charlotte right now and that team on the rise, like that could actually compete this season. I mean, they're 20-2 since they've changed their starting lineup. Brandon Miller is a dog. Con Knipple is a star in the making. LaMelo Ball's playing great basketball. Diabate. Hell, they got, PJ Hall coming in off the bench that looks like he can play. Like all of a sudden, Charlotte just has something going there. That's Curry's hometown team. If there's one place that he would play that isn't Golden State and finish his career, maybe it would be a year, 2 years in Charlotte, and then finish off with that come back to Warriors land on the one-day contract, that sort of thing. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think the Warriors are going to start that conversation. But I do think there's that 1% chance now that team is actually close to where it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world with all the assets they have to throw around. But that would be last case scenario. That's if Jimmy has a setback. At that point, you shrug your shoulders. And if you're the front office, like, is it more about just watching Curry put up some numbers for one more season, making sure you don't see him anywhere else? Or is it more about looking ahead to the future and realizing at some point the Warriors are going to look different, but there has to be a future of some sort. They're not selling the team. It doesn't just end like that. This, the way we know it, is ending, and it's ending soon. But he says, I think we'll be ready for it. I'm okay with the reality of all of it. I realize what's coming. How quickly is it coming? Has it already come? Has it came and gone? Dunleavy compared it to 2019, where he said the entire media landscape and those around the league were saying the Warriors are has-beens. And if they would have listened to the noise back then, they would have missed out on 5 great seasons. Now, I would argue 2022 obviously was phenomenal. You wouldn't take that back for anything. That may have been, I mean, let me know if you feel differently, maybe 15. But aside from that, like, what championship are you taking over 2022? That was a splendid championship. So I don't know. The last 4 seasons, he made a comparison saying, like, well, the Warriors, if we would have torn this down in 2019 when they said to tear it down, we may have risen already. We may be back. At the same time, we would have missed out on all those great years. And to me, it's like the year 2022, but since 2022, like last year was fun. That Rockets series was great. The post Jimmy trade was electric, but the totality of the last 5 seasons, or since 2019, I wouldn't classify as amazing by any means. One amazing season and some great moments. You're glad you didn't give up on that thing. Don't get me wrong. But at some point, you do have to look ahead to the future. And the question is, how much of the future is too much to give up when it's becoming increasingly hard to know what you can get from Curry and Butler specifically? I mean, Draymond's been playing. He consistently gives you similar type Draymond efforts, at least according to Steve Kerr. The box score doesn't show anything incredible, but he's taking the floor. Steph this season, he's missed a lot of time. Jimmy Butler's out. He's getting older. He's coming off an ACL surgery. How much do you trust that entering next season? That's why I say victory lap. It almost feels like hey, the contracts line up. There's nothing else to really do here unless we're trading Steph, because getting rid of Jimmy and trying to package Draymond, and that may require draft capital in the first place to bring back who we want to bring back, assuming it's a young talent. So why would we do that? We're not trading Steph. I don't care if Charlotte calls. Damn it, it's not happening. He's retiring in a Warriors jersey. In fact, we want to extend him after this 2 years that remains on his contract. And if that's the case, then you just kind of shrug your shoulders and you say, let's do it again next season. We thought we had the juice this year. Let's get everyone healthy. Whether we're the 7 seed or the 3 seed in 2027, we believe we will have a shot if everyone is healthy. Not a last dance, because last dance, you're coming off a championship, and we kind of knew what the Bulls were aiming for there. It feels more like, well, a victory lap again is after you've completed your mission. I don't know the right name for this thing, but the final tango, I guess you could say, for the Golden State Warriors. All right, as we move forward in the show, I want to talk about Kristaps Porzingis. Some more details on him have emerged. Will he be playing against the Houston Rockets? No. I'll tell you why. That's coming up. Locked on Dubs.
And most importantly, he a dog.
We need more dogs.
Getting tickets with Gametime is the move. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena. You got the crowd, the energy, the moment. The tickets, though, it hasn't always been so simple. That's why Gametime has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs with the fans. Pull up the Gametime app. You'll get an all-in price up front. So there's no scanning the app for deals. It's right there in front of you. Plus the seat is too. You get the panoramic view. So you know that there's no obstructions in front of you, and you can visualize yourself in those seats. Everything feels quick, intuitive, and stress-free from start to finish. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDON for $20 off. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Gametime app today, and remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. All right, let's get back to the program.
Destroy Jimmy and Domino's. I know Jimmy drinks great wine.
Warriors and Rockets will do it on Thursday, and the Warriors will not have a bunch of their dudes. It's 7 rostered players, and then two-way players for the Warriors. So expect a 9-man rotation. One of those players being Nate Williams, who's an awesome story. Again, I always like to say when a random player comes out of nowhere and has a good performance, I look at age first. If I see age 20, I'm like, ooh, maybe they're cooking with something here. And scouting has just missed, or late bloomer, or he fixed some mechanics in his shot and has changed his game from there, or put on some strength, something along those lines. When a player's 27, like Nate Williams, it's usually just a feel-good story in an otherwise season that hasn't had much feel-good. But it is a very good story. Said he was ready for the challenge because of the streets he grew up on in New York. Kawhi Leonard, that's nothing compared to the back roads of Rochester. And that was his quote. He was playing his 4th game in 4 days. That is toughness. Name another player in the NBA who's gone 4 games in 4 days this season. He went from the big squad to Santa Cruz, the big squad, scored 18 points in his 21 minutes. He was 5 of 8 from the field, switched on to Leonard, and Steve Kerr said he was really impressed with Nate Williams. So that's at least a fun storyline, probably not one that has the chops to be like a long-term fit, anything like that, unfortunately, because that would be nice right now if a player just fell out of the sky and you're like, wait, who is this 20-year-old that put up 18 points in his 2nd game with the Warriors? But he's a 27-year-old that's been having a really good season in the G League, and right now the Warriors need him to fill out the roster, frankly. Moving forward, they need more than that. This is a team right now that's not yet throwing in the towel like some other squads out there, or at least publicly, like Utah has essentially done. Warriors haven't thrown in the towel. They're trying to manage this delicate situation of making sure that Steph is ready for one final year of a contract next year, where Jimmy's going to return and where the team is clearly going to have a better shot. This squad, as structured this minute, is stuck. Could they have done something at the buyout market? Sure. Did they do something at the buyout market? No. So as of right now, they can't do anything except bring up guys like Nate Williams and hope that they can give you a little pop. Unfortunately, fortunately, this team's still in a playoff race. So it's not like the 2020 season, 2019, 2020, where you just shut Curry down and you wait for next year. Because if he is good to go, you want him playing basketball. You want a shot in a 7-game series. You want Porzingis and Moody to get some reps in high leverage games, whereas the reps that they got last year were not great. Against Houston and against Minnesota, they looked like the lights were too bright. Get him another series. Get Will Richards some time in a playoff series, even if it's a gentleman's sweep against OKC. 5 more games on Curry's knee isn't going to be the difference between him not being ready to go for training camp and you know what I'm saying here. Curry called the injury unpredictable, acknowledged that it would be a little longer before a return is on the table, but it's a careful calculation to where we heard Dunleavy. He didn't rule the possibility of him being out for the season, and really there's no possibility of the Warriors being in any other spot than the 9 or the 10. So get ready for Portland, everyone. It's like a month away, but 9-10, Portland Trailblazers, that's what we can probably expect. Some other things that I wanted to talk about on today's show is that Kristaps Porzingis, he's out with illness against the Rockets again. Did make the road trip, which is a positive sign because he did not make the previous road trip. It's becoming more and more clear to me, even though Dunleavy in that interview said that Porzingis, they liked what the medical staff had to say, and they conducted their research before making the trade, and that's why he's here. It's becoming more and more clear to me that I don't need tea leaves. I don't need Dunleavy to go on the record. This is a salary dump. He's done it before with Jordan Poole, and I think the Warriors are truly doing it again. I think there's something going on with Porzingis that's going to affect his career moving forward. His best days appear to be behind him. Don't quote me on it, but bank on it at this point. Like, I don't think he's a longer-term piece aside from maybe playing a few more games for the Warriors this year. And I wouldn't be stunned if he only played a couple. And if he plays one more and it's general illness for a couple games out, forget about it. The Warriors don't have time. They don't have cap space. They don't have roster room, and they don't have fingers to cross to hope that Kristaps Porzingis is healthy and ready. You got to get guys that can contribute and use your mid-level exception on someone that can come in and provide a two-way spark next season. But how do you want this rebuild to look? Because it is here. The Warriors are going to keep delaying the inevitable, and we're going to have one final victory lap next season. Again, I'm looking for a name from someone in the chat, a phrase that can coin what the Warriors are trying to do next season. It's not threading a needle. That was kind of what we thought was going to be this year, was threading the needle between the now and the future. But there's no more threading needles. The Warriors have very, very little flexibility to go out and get things done with their prized trade asset, Jonathan Kuminga, now gone, and bringing in Porzingis, to where they're not really building ahead for the future when you sign Al Horford to a multi-year deal at the age of 40. Like, it is clear as can be, crystal, that next season is probably it. The last chance to party for the Warriors. And Dunleavy believes it, as he should. With a healthy Steph and Jimmy, and the way that Al's been playing, and some of those role players getting a year older, a year more developed into the system, like, they can have a competitive team just like they were on the rise this year. They were a rising team before that injury to Jimmy Butler. But then you have to ask, when does Butler return in the season? What's their record like when he does return? Who else do they get? But this whole notion of we are building for the now while also looking ahead to the future, I just have not seen them look ahead to the future one bit. Because the only way that they can look ahead to the future is if they pull that plug. There's just no other way. They can do some small things around the peripherals. They can develop a player like Will Richard that is very good for his draft slot, and they can, figure it out in restricted free agency with Brandon Pajemski, and they have Moses Moody to a couple more years following this season. They have some ancillary role players that make up a team. But in terms of like getting back to where the Warriors want to be, there's nothing in-house that's going to get them there. And there's nothing this offseason without trading one of those three dudes that I mentioned that can return that player, I would think, unless they get an absolute steal. So again, my takeaways from today's show: get ready for 9v10. I just about guarantee that it's Blazers Warriors in that opening round. The question is, are we going up to Portland? Or are we staying in the Bay Area for that game? It's going to be a long drag until then, with the big storylines being, can Moses Moody be the team's leading scorer? Can Brandon Pajemski be the team's leading scorer every single night? Can one of those dudes prove to be a 23 point per game type of guy and get better every single night and show that, hey, maybe if they're the third best player on a contending team, that would be okay. They've got the chops to handle some of that capabilities. But as of right now, those dudes, they're not going for 30 ever. Can they? Once, twice. That will make me believe that they have that in them. Another developing story will be Will Richard's play down the stretch when he has some more opportunities, when he gets back and is healthy. And then aside from that, do they bubble wrap Al? He's only got so much water left in the glass. If you're not playing for really anything until April, why not bubble wrap Al all of March? Does it make sense to keep running him out there? If you do, once a week? I mean, I know Quentin Post is your only center. This is where it hurts to trade Trace Jackson Davis if Porzingis is no longer available. But hell, Steve likes playing small anyways. Keep doing it. I don't know. Aside from that, there's not a ton of questions to ask about this team. Every single question is moving forward. Will Steve be back next season? Will they actually trade Draymond Green, or is he truly going to finish his career with the Warriors? Is the Jimmy, Dre, Steph nucleus that we saw win a series in Houston a season ago and then have their hearts ripped out from a hamstring injury, are they going to get another chance to avenge this thing? Those are the questions that we're asking, unfortunately. And then the last question would be, if they do have the 11th, 12th, 13th worst record in the NBA, 1%, can they, against all odds, do the impossible? I'm not going to say a top draft pick, but top 10? Take that, right? 12? We'd take that, right? Something that allows you to bring someone in next season that, again, he could be fully developed. It could be a 3-year, 2-year college guy. You could look at a player that, I mean, there's just so many good ones right now that are in this draft. It's not as top heavy as it's been before. The pick actually that I saw earlier, the Warriors per CBS Sports, they're projected to be like 15. They don't have any idea, but 15 sounds about right at this point. Who would they go with in the draft if they had, middle of the pack? And I'm not talking player, but in terms of skill set, in terms of need, they need everything right now, right? When Steph's gone, you clearly need more shooting. You need a floor general at some point. That's why I've always said, if I could pick up any player, franchise piece in the NBA, it wouldn't be Ant, it wouldn't be Wemby, it wouldn't. You could say you're crazy. It'd be Cade Cunningham, man. Two-way player that's a beast on defense, that's going to dictate the tempo on offense, that's going to score, that's going to facilitate, that's going to make everyone better, that's a natural-born leader. That's the kind of guy that I'd be looking at moving forward. But you could say a big. I wouldn't disagree with you. You could say a straight-up sharpshooter. I wouldn't disagree with you. A microwave scorer. Anything but a defensive specialist at this point, because this team does not need that. If Draymond Green's showing us anything right now, this team is not a defensive specialist away from competing. They need some pop, and they need it quick. This is Locked On Warriors. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We will see you after the Houston game on Thursday. Peace, everyone.